So, I'm just over a year removed from high school. All of my friends I spent the better part of those 12 years with have all grown up, determined what they want to do, and we all went our separate ways. At this point in time, everyone's determining what they want to do and where they want to end up, so college or a trade or a potential business is on everyone's mind. So naturally, they come back and visit when they're on break sometimes and return as completely different people. In most cases, the people I've been fortunate enough to keep in touch with appear happier all around. We hang out, we talk about times in high school, and just do a ton of reflecting and go on about it for literally hours. I just recently had a conversation with my friend Josh about it. The times when we played football, all the games we won, the games we lost, old teachers, classmates, and the overall dynamic of high school. Now, I wanted to talk about this today because whenever a conversation like that takes place, the conversation or thought is usually concluded with the agreement that, well, we're all glad high school's over. I found this fascinating as my parents and most adults I've spoken to always tell me, enjoy these days. These are the best times. I would do anything to live it again. But me personally, I'm thrilled that high school's over. Which, when you say it out loud, is kind of sad, because usually that's a time where you shouldn't have much worry on your shoulders. Aside from being a good student, getting good grades, and doing your homework, in most cases, it's just a brick and mortar location for kids to see their friends and build relationships. See, this puzzled me because it seems like the narrative of high school took a complete 180 in the last 30 years or so. I'm going to share a bit of my perspective as to how my years in high school ultimately shaped the thought process as to why this may be. Now, what's the biggest difference between high school in the 2000s and high school in the 70s and 80s? This shouldn't take you long. Well, the answer to that is social media. Duh. I'm a firm believer that the smartphone everyone carries with them nowadays yields a direct correlation to the experience kids in our generation had getting through school. Saying this probably doesn't sound like the most groundbreaking thing to viewers my age, but we're literally brought up in a generation where everything we say or do is pretty much documented on the internet for everyone to see. I feel like because we were born into this informational revolution, we're just so desensitized to it. Like, it feels normal being able to look up the answer to anything we could possibly wonder and have contact with anybody, anywhere, anytime, all the time. It's weird. It's weird. Think about it. This is power. We literally have so much power at our disposal every single day. We can send videos or pictures of fascinating events anywhere. Boredom is completely alleviated because if we're waiting in line or we're doing something that takes up a lot of our time, like a doctor's office, we always have our phones in our pocket. We're always occupied. I mean, not many of us genuinely appreciate just how revolutionary this is because we can hardly picture life without it. Times have dramatically changed, but is that such a good thing? I mean, sure, it's far more effective, but just how healthy is this volume of consumption? When you go on Instagram, you see a picture and you like it. When you go on Twitter, you see a tweet and you retweet it. And when you're on the receiving end of those likes and shares, it's a great experience. It's acceptance, approval, relief, all sorts of great emotions brought to us by that sweet, sweet dopamine. Social media has led everyone to be continuously interconnected as if it's our entire lives being live streamed by ourselves. And this leads me to believe what I personally think is the biggest contributing factor as to why people in high school, like myself, had such a bad experience in comparison to those of years past. This is something that our parents have endured as well, but it's skyrocketed since we had information at our fingertips as well as social media, and that is the search for approval. We seek approval. Social media spawned this new way of navigation amongst teenagers and adults as well. Before every meal, we must take a picture and show everyone just how pretty it is. If we go to hang out with a friend, we have to share a picture to make people think we're having a better time than we really are. If we go on vacation, we have to flood our feed with pictures of the Grand Canyon or surfing in Hawaii or whatever, or else it never happened. Everything that happens in life that remotely correlates to our day-to-day, we feel the need to share it on the internet. And not only that, doll it up so your normal life appears more glamorous than it really is. And after some thought about this, it really boils down to high school being a crucible of unacknowledged competition. And what I mean by that is, though it's never really said out loud, people look at what they see on social media and compare it to their own lives. We're put in a position where we subconsciously see someone post a picture on Instagram and automatically think, oh, they're having more fun than me. Their lives are better than mine. This, that, it sucks. We post pictures that have to be at the right angle and have the right lighting or the right filter. And we get so caught up in fine-tuning reality for public appeal that we never truly appreciate the moment life is handing us. Every moment. Literally because we are so hell-bent on sharing it with everyone else. And on paper, sharing cool moments is not such a bad thing to do, but it forces people to compare themselves based on the amount of likes they get. The more likes you get, the more approval you feel. The less likes you get, the less approval you feel. Social media strips you of your privacy and places you into a hierarchy amongst your peers. That's what I mean when I say it's a competition. As much fun as distraction of social media may be, it separates us from what's really going on in our lives. Kids and adults alike will do anything to get the most likes here or have the trending whatever, and we become so attached to this ideology that we allow it to have a direct effect on our level of happiness, even outside the realm of media. It spills over into real life, and a kid who doesn't get all the likes another kid might get will probably feel like he's of less importance. Obviously, not every person thinks that way, but in many cases, that's the reality of how kids navigate. It's sad. For example, I'll go on Snapchat and I'll look at someone's story and they're shaking their camera around with their girlfriends and they got a strobe light going and they got the red Solo cup in hand and, they're screaming, they're dancing, they're making it think that, like, there's a huge party going on and they're having the time of their lives. But the reality of the situation is it's just the three of them alone in a dorm. They aren't at a party. They have strobe lights strictly for Snapchat videos. The red Solo cups don't have anything in them. Case in point, they're putting up a front to make their lives seem more glamorous and fun than it really is. In conclusion, approval. I don't fault them though, because naturally in the environment we're being brought up in, that's what a bunch of people feel like they need to do. Our brains are just wired differently this day and age. Priorities have completely changed, and that's why I think high school makes so many kids unhappy. They compete to be the most attractive person or the most interesting person, or basically an attempt to make you look like something you're not for the sake of approval. And they compete for it. It's so unhealthy, and when someone doesn't feel like they're getting enough likes or enough people are showering them with attention, it makes them insecure about themselves, and it leads to other things. It makes them feel like they're doing something wrong, leading to depression or to anxiety, and it's like every move on social media is so much more calculated than any thought or assignment that school will ever assign you. You're more focused on social media. High school is no longer about making genuine experiences and memories with friends, and now it's more whose experiences and memories are worth more likes. This forces kids to be something they're not. They put on a show and they filter every single corner of their life for those extra likes. And as much as kids see it on social media, it translates into something that I dealt with a ton in high school myself. Kids lose their individuality. They're afraid to do the things that make them happy in an attempt to be accepted by a group of individuals who honestly provide no value to them. And I'm not saying like you need to get a benefit from everybody, but more so if you don't fit their mold, you're not good enough, or they won't accept you into their group, or you won't get invited to the function. And it's depressing because I've witnessed this so many times. Your feed constantly just bombards you with these unrealistic standards of living, and if you don't meet that standard, you're not good enough. Of course, nobody's going to say that out loud, but that's the reality of it nowadays. The only way to really break free from that is to put your phone down and stop allowing yourself to be a slave to all this nonsense. I'm no stranger to cyberbullying, and I've had numerous experiences where I feel my personal business has been put on blast behind my back on social media, or something I posted didn't get the amount of likes I wanted, or someone didn't agree with what I posted. And that's just the headspace some people have growing up. They need that approval, and they compete with each other because that's what makes us feel good. That's what makes us feel accepted in high school. Basically spawned a bunch of people who will get all tough, big, and judgmental behind a monitor and say stuff they would never actually say to your face. And it doesn't take much to take a toll on somebody's mental health. I admit it, I was that guy for years. I played into the dynamic even while I was consciously aware of how unhealthy and irrelevant all of this really is. I recently watched a TED Talk by a woman named Bailey Parnell discussing the effects of social media on one's mental health, which I highly suggest you check out. I'll link it down below. She gives a rundown on our internal dependency on social media. She mentions something that resonated with me a lot. Much like real life, social media is a platform operated off of a particular currency. That currency being likes, comments, notifications, and you can't help but pick up your phone and check for that every 30 seconds. See, not only that, but there was a comment underneath the video that was a little eye-opening. It said, "After I quit social media, the first thing I noticed is how often people were on their phones." It's true. It's scary. Look around, everyone's on their phone. We built ourselves into a society that depends on social media just as much as we depend on our car getting us to work. Now let me clarify something. I'm not against social media, and quite frankly, I enjoy it a ton. Like, who doesn't? But I genuinely believe it needs to be utilized in a more positive manner, and I'll even go as far as to say people should go out of their way to regulate the amount of screen time they consume on a day-to-day basis. It has unhealthy side effects, and it can honestly strip someone of their true identity in an attempt to appeal to others who face that very same problem. For those of you watching, I'd simply like you to ask yourself, what if I didn't touch social media for a month? No Instagram, no Twitter, no Snapchat, Twitch, nothing but the internet for school or essential purposes, and your phone app. Nothing else. I asked myself this question, and I'm in the majority, and I'll honestly say it's a daunting and unrealistic thought. The thought of not having a phone in my pocket all the time, saying that out loud itself induces some kind of anxiety. It's weird. We depend on it so heavily. We really don't know what life is like without it. When you create a profile on a platform, you are immediately susceptible to everyone's judgment, and to me that feels unhealthy for young kids in an environment which they are surrounded by peers dealing with the same thing, as well as themselves trying to build their own identity and find all that as well. Kids in middle school and high school aren't gonna think twice about judging you or critiquing you or talking their shit. Trust me, I've seen it, I've lived it, and you probably have too. Standards are set, and if you don't appeal to what's currently popular or cool, then you'll be outcasted or at the very least judged. Now, judgment is normal, but that stems from insecurity. When you have a bunch of kids monitoring each other 24/7, they will develop insecurities as a result of not being good enough in other peers' eyes, resulting in them judging others as well as themselves. It's a really unhealthy cycle. Now, one thing I will say is in recent years, social media has greatly accepted the narrative of people speaking up about mental health, and that's amazing because it's been and still is an issue I fear most people eventually encounter at some point in their lives as a result of this. I will say this, I don't know any of you personally, but my high school years were weighed down feeling the need to be accepted by everyone around me. I compromised my character, my everything, because I wanted to fit a mold where I felt I'd be accepted by everyone else. These outlandish standards, I shot for them. Most of the time I didn't get there, and it was upsetting, it was empty, it was hollow. It deterred my way of thinking, changed my approach to online platforms as well as legitimate personal interactions, and I consistently felt that whatever room I was in, someone was judging me or thinking some kind of negative thought, and that's a really overwhelming feeling to have, especially if it's consistent. I mean, I'm always going to encourage you to have thick skin, and I want you to be tough, and I want you to be strong, but I don't feel like you should have to do that being a kid growing up having social media. It shouldn't be dangerous. You shouldn't have to have these precautions and things to worry about. That shouldn't be something that kids have to deal with. I encourage all of you still watching this to be vigilant with your platform. Think about what you say or post that can affect someone else on a deep level. And most of all, do not ever compromise your identity. Be yourself, and if someone doesn't like that, do not waste an ounce of energy trying to appease them. It's pointless, and it'll suck the life out of you. Don't ever pay attention to likes, they're fake. Post what you want to post, be who you want to be, but just as long as it doesn't come at the expense of anybody else. It's your decision to make and only yours. So for all the high school students and college students, middle schoolers, whatever level you're at, the key to true happiness is to be yourself and to never compromise that. I hope you guys found this video informative, or at least maybe I can help you in your journey through high school, because kids should be enjoying that experience. Kids should not have to worry or maneuver or walk on eggshells just because they have a platform on the internet. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like if you liked what I had to say, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified whenever I drop more content like this. On that note, man, I'm out. Take care of yourselves. Peace.